Get Warrior Tough, Mental Training 101 with Andrew Wittman and Dutch Coleman. And now back to Andrew and Dutch. Dutch.
Ha! Back in the saddle. Andrew and Dutch. Get Warrior Tough, the most monumental hour in media anywhere. And if you want to join the conversation, use the hashtag #GetWarriorTough. Dutch is at the Dutch Coleman. I'm at Warrior Tough PhD. Go to the website, getwarriortough.com. Listen, you could call the office if you have any questions about this stuff. The number is 864-977-1443. That's 864-977-1443. You could use the contact form. You can email us at info@getwarriortough.com. We will give you more information on what we're talking about in these shows. And specifically tonight, we're a leadership show, Dutch, but I always say this all the time, that being a leader, leading people is the same thing as parenting.
Absolutely. It's all about influence. And you know that you're influencing your kid. Every single thing you do in your home, you're influencing your kids every single day. So you got to remember that. And that's the same thing you're doing in the workplace. That's the same thing you're doing in your community. That's the same thing you're doing in relationships, no matter whether it's professional or personal. You're influencing those around you. So you're leading those around you. You're leading your children by influencing them. So this is critical.
It is. And right before the break, we talked about the two kinds of popularity, right, that this research kind of distinguished between the perceived popularity, which is the high status mean girls and mean boys, right, and then there's this they call it the sociometric popularity, which is the good kid that everyone needs to have in their life. And so the research points that to be that good kid, the one that has, plays well with others in the sandbox, that has that number one predictor of professional success, of developing strong, meaningful relationships. The number one indicator is that is this key skill, the ability to tune into another person's perspective.
That's big, and we witnessed that at a very young age. We've seen that. We've seen kids and their ability to empathize with their friends. We've seen them give their lunch. If one kid drops their lunch, I've seen another kid give his lunch to that kid, give at least a portion of it.
Yeah, we'll share mine with you and looking out for you, put your arm around you. Yeah, that's empathy. That's really what we call it. The big boy, the adult word for it is empathy, but I have to see it from your perspective. If I could walk a mile in your shoes, that kind of, that cliche, but that is the number one indicator that you're going to be able to play well in the sandbox. And it carries over into adulthood. If, just even in my marriage, if I can see things from my wife's point of view, as a cop on the street, if I could see things from the point of view of the person that was given the complaint, the victim, the perpetrator, all the parties, try to see it from their point of view and then untangle the mess.
Even in the adversarial situation, if you can see it, again, you mentioned and I want to use cops as adversarial, but sometimes you end up in that situation. But in the community situation where you're trying to help a conflict, but when you're in the boardroom and you're trying to get a point across and there's a counterpoint, being able to put yourself in their shoes, listen to their perspective, and understand it will help you get to a compromise sooner because you understand where they're coming from. So now I know where I need to get to bring them on board closer to what I want.
Right, and this is one of the things that you and I practice in our partnership is that we will, if we have a disagreement, we argue each other's point of view. Like I'll argue Dutch's point of view like I'm Dutch.
Right.
And you'll argue Andrew's point of view like you're Andrew. And then pretty soon what happens is, as I'm arguing, I get emotionally invested into your side, and then I could see, and it, like you say, it draws us to the center.
Absolutely.
Doesn't necessarily mean I might agree with you now or take on everything, but now I understand where you're coming from, and I have empathy to see it from your perspective.
And you're absolutely going to get closer to a solution. When you find the people who are digging in, each side digging in, they're not going anywhere. There's no progress. You end up angry. And then the people in the middle sometimes who are the quote-unquote constituents who are waiting for a solution from their leadership, they're sitting there holding the bag. And you never want that because then the entire leadership team looks bad, not just the person that disagreed with you. You all look bad.
And then, like you said, everyone was standing there holding the bag. Now what? It's just bad for everybody. Now, the title of tonight's show, the question is, how low can you go? Now, this is great. I mean, listen, Dutch, what you and I are talking about, adults have a hard time getting this, man. I mean, the masses of adults, they have a hard time getting this. They don't get it.
And I think that's more of a choice than anything else. And I believe that because of my 4-year-old, my youngest one, well, actually, when he was 3 was really the first time I started trying to practice it with him. And my 4-year-old, my 5-year-old was 4 years old when I first started trying to practice it with her. And she was getting it. I walk her down a path. She completely get it. I have her repeat to me what I was trying to do, and she was able to repeat to me what I was trying to do, and she was able to execute and have a better day as a result. So
yeah, and then she'll call you on it when you don't follow your own process.
Oh, they will. They absolutely
like,
will.
Hey, Daddy, what?
They absolutely. Now, I did want to mention something with respect to the types of popularity. You know, it's funny that one is based on the kid or the child being liked for all kind of good reasons.
Yeah,
right?
For credibility and character, and yes,
absolutely. Now, the other one, and the one that we refer to as like the mean girl, mean boy type. You ever notice that that's usually based on a skill, like an external skill, like they're a really good athlete, or they're really pretty, or they have a talent that's not associated to their character.
Right.
Something
You're right.
External.
I didn't think of that before.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always like the big man on campus or the girl that's really pretty that all the girls want to follow and be like, but they can have a horrible attitude, but they're really pretty.
So they describe, oh, she's popular. She ain't popular. In fact, people, they don't even like her.
Absolutely. Now, the reason I bring that up is because one day that kid that's really good at basketball may not be really good at basketball.
Yeah, and then he's like Rob Lowe, captain of the team at the pizza place. He's 40 years old, still wearing his varsity jacket.
Or Pretty Susie, you know, has been surpassed.
Yes, because the sands of time have shifted that hourglass figure.
Absolutely, she's 13 now. So, but honestly, you know, so you don't want your kid to have popularity based on an external thing like that may go away, because then your child is sitting there with nothing, no friends, nothing that was built on
right, external identity.
Exactly,
external.
And that is a dangerous place for a child to be. And children can get there very quickly if we don't help them identify a way, a path, a process to not be in that space, because sometimes kids kind of go there without the right guidance. They go there.
That's the natural. It's like water flowing downhill. Okay, so how low can we go? So what is the best age, or what point can they start to understand this? And so in Australia, there was a paper published last year in the Journal of Child Development, and the researchers had found they took a gathering of data and they analyzed 20 different studies that included 2,096 children from 10 countries between the ages of 10 and 2 years old.
That's it. At the moment they can begin to understand speech, you can pretty much go for it.
And they found that in the 2-year-olds even, they found that there was a link between the theory of mind, or being empathetic, understanding things and seeing things from someone else's perspective. That's what they call that's the science word for it, the theory of mind. And popularity, the good kind of popularity, was stronger those who could exhibit communication, cooperation, and sensitivity in their interactions with their peers.
Wow. 2 years old.
Starting at 2 years old. And the effect does not vary with age. From 2 to 10, the effect did not vary with age. And I'll tell you, it doesn't vary with age even when you're 20, you're 30, you're 50, you're 90, and anywhere in between. If you have good communication skills, you're sensitive to other people's emotions, their feelings, and their needs, and you can see things from their perspective, and this is what we call people whispering. We're a people whisperer, right? You'll never run out of real friends, because they're going to want you in their space.
And I find that the people that don't practice that, a lot of times they're choosing not to. They're choosing to be that person, because I think naturally we want to do that. But as we get older and we realize the power, or we become something, less than what we're supposed to be, based on lack of training, based on lack of education, based on lack of a process, lack of a target. So we end up drifting to somewhere where we weren't designed to be. So, because if you look at little kids will be naturally empathetic, right?
At the beginning, right? When you cited that study on what was like public TV, PBS, right, where the 2 and 3 year olds don't even know the stranger, didn't have food, but everybody else had. They came and they shared their cookies with them, or whatever. Right?
Absolutely. So when you as you get older, and you go away from a process, or you don't develop a process, you don't develop a target or vision, you could go into a very dangerous place of not developing empathy in the way where you're going to sustain it for the rest of your life, right? So it ends up being a choice, because what I do realize is that if I'm not being taught things the right way, like we talk about identity, we talk about a vision, a target, so we begin with ourselves. If you don't do that, then what you're going to do is you're going to base your interactions on external things like power, control, dominance, fear. You talked about being a tyrant,
right?
Because those are things that get you things in this world. Now, that's not where you want to be. That's not what we teach. But to be honest, it gets you things in this world.
There's a certain level of quote success that comes with it, but your 8 cylinders are out of balance. You might have success in financial, or you may have success, with popularity, as in like, or notoriety. I'll say, not popularity, because you might be you might be a celebrity, but that doesn't mean that you have great family relationships, that you got great your spiritual cylinder, that you're healthy physically.
It's ultimately an illusion.
Yes,
that will eventually be blown away. It will, at some point, it will be blown away if it's not built in the right stuff.
Right. And now when you're in school, when you're in kids, because you really don't have a world view yet. So all your world is all like what's in this microcosm in the halls of this middle school or this high school or this elementary school. And it seems really, really important that the pretty one or the great athlete or, that they're the popular one, that everyone sees them as popular. So this is some stuff that you can ask your kid when they come home, right? And they're complaining about the quote popular kids. So you can ask them, hey, is that person really popular, or are they just like wielding power? Are they is it a power play? Are they manipulating people? Are they really well liked, or are they popular because other kids are afraid of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if they are, then I got no time for you anyway, because you're not really popular. You might be notorious, but I don't want to be in your space. Now, the sociometric popular children, the good character, they use their skills to be empathetic and sensitive to their friends' needs, and they're looking out for even kids that aren't their friends' needs, right? And so I'm going to hang out with those kids. They don't gossip. They don't, and see the quote, the mean kids, they use gossip and they use bullying tactics in order to be popular. And that's what we're talking about when I say they're powerful. They're just bullies. They're not really powerful at all. But they use fear and manipulation with gossip and name-calling, bullying, backstabbing, all these things. And, of course, you and I teach, that's a red flag for us. What do we think that we find a bully or a backstabber, that they need our help, because that's a self-esteem issue.
Absolutely. And the difference between the two in practice is one is everlasting. The empathy, that's everlasting. You can go anywhere and you're going to be accepted. When you can empathize with others and you show concern, genuine concern for others, people are going to accept you anywhere on the planet, right? When you're the other way, when you're the tyrant, when you're that bully, when you're doing it based on external factors, those things, it's just a matter of time before they end. It's just a matter of time where you're not going to be as pretty. It's going to be a matter of time where you're not going to be able to jump as high. It's going to be a matter of time before some other stronger kid's going to come punch you in the nose when you're no longer the bully, when someone puts you in your place. Like, all those things are a matter of time before it ends, and the other alternative is everlasting.
And it will end. And I want to talk about that. We're up on a break, but hold that thought. I want to talk about that and give a widely known example of, your external identity going away. All right, you're listening to the Get Warrior Tough radio show with Andrew and Dutch, and we'll be right back.